want to be under the bright lights. I want to be on the Broadway stage.
Tiger Rag Radio is on now.
We're back here on Tiger Rag Radio. Jeff Palermo along with the editor of Tiger Rag Magazine, Glenn Gilbo, and our next guest here on the Max Home Hotline. It's Todd Walker, the College Baseball Hall of Famer, LSU star, was there at the box this past weekend for games 2 and 3 between LSU and Tennessee. Todd, thanks a lot for spending some time with us, and it was a great series, a dramatic series. Emotions were high. Do you think we'll see these two teams again in Omaha play each other in the College World Series?
I said that multiple times this weekend. This is a preview of Omaha. You know, last year we had 4 SEC schools and 4 ACC schools at the College World Series, and I don't see that being any different this year unless SEC gets more teams in. See, now we're getting – last year was a record, 11 teams into the field of 64. Now the league's expanded with Oklahoma and Texas in the league. Now I think we'll get 12 or 13 into the field. So what that means is the committee can't stack the SECs in regionals. You know, you have to spread them out, and so that gives a lot of SECs a clear path, or not an easy path either, but a path at least to the College World Series. Because in the past, remember, they'd match up in super regionals and only one could make it. So with more teams in, then I think you're going to see more teams in Omaha, which means yes. You'll see the Texas LSU matchup again. You'll see the Tennessee LSU matchup, that type of stuff.
Todd, what was your impression of LSU based on what you thought going in, and just how do you think they played overall?
They didn't get a hit to the 6th inning in game 1. They didn't get a hit to the 5th inning in game 2. And then the back end of that was an explosion, of course, in the 9th when they got some help. You know, I mean, you can't depend on the other team to give you 3 free passes. Tennessee on Friday night gave them 3 free passes in the first 4 hitters that led to those 6 runs, and then Jared Jones on a 1-2 count. Let's just throw the most powerful hitter in the conference a fastball right down the middle. See, if pitchers could do what they wanted to do, we'd never get a hit. And I don't know what the thought process is throwing Jared Jones a fastball in any scenario is, but I guess they tried to elevate it and just left it over the plate. So LSU stole game 1, and then game 2, you know, Tennessee's way. And then yesterday it was all LSU. And, you know, he asked me, like, what's the difference in the offense with LSU? And I said, you know, they call it an average for a reason, both as an individual player like Derek Curiel, who got his 43 or whatever it was on base streak snapped, and then comes out yesterday and gets 4 hits. It just works that way depending on the talent level that you are. So Derek Curiel, I think, is a 400 college baseball hitter. If he goes 0 for 4, 0 for 8, it's going to average out. And so same with the team, you know, so like yesterday they just exploded, you know, and did what they're capable. But, you know, look, it's Texas, Arkansas, LSU, and Tennessee as the top 4. And then there's a gap. Even though I know that Ole Miss and a few others, Georgia, are 1 game behind, there's a gap there. In fact, I would put Texas A&M and Florida, even though they're 4 games back of Ole Miss, I think, and we only got 9 games left, but I would say that Florida A&M are the next 2 best teams out of those top 4.
Todd, did y'all get an explanation in the Saturday game when Tony Vitello almost made a visit to the mound, but the umpire kind of stopped him from doing that? Jay had called a timeout. How did you see what happened there?
I needed clarification on the rule as well, because if you call an offensive timeout, like Nick Mingione does a lot of that, where it takes a couple minutes, I'm under the understanding that you get a free pass to the mound. But what happened in that scenario is Jay called an offensive timeout. They had already gone to visit. Remember, Frank Anderson, the pitching coach for Tennessee, had already gone to the mound. Then he comes back. Then they threw a pitch to Ashton Larson that, you know, they didn't like. So Jay calls a timeout and then waits, and then Tony comes out with the same hitter. So when you do that, you cannot pull your pitcher, but you can. But after the at-bat is over by Ashton Larson, then you have to pull the pitcher, and that's what happened. They needed clarification from Birmingham, so the umpires called. But Jay said, I know the rule. And they went out twice with Ashton Larson at bat. So that meant when Franklin finished that at bat, he had to come out of the game. That's why he only threw 11 pitches, and they had to pull him.
Yeah, it ended up not really mattering in the game. But, well, what was your impression of Kase Evans in his first college start on Sunday?
Incredible. it's amazing how these guys can morph into whatever you want them to be. He's been dominant out of the out of the bullpen, and it's his first start of the year, and he's a freshman. The way the first inning went, 4 hits in the first 6 at bats, I said he's not going to last through the first inning. And Jay's got to have a short leash on him. He can't think that he's going to work out of it, like somebody that has more experience. So he's going to pull him. And Jay was patient, stuck with him, only gave up the inevitable 2, like Skip Bertman always says in the first inning. And then I said he morphed into himself. So he got pulled in the first, and then they put in Kase Evans to back up Kase Evans, and then he became who he is out of the bullpen, just this dominant guy. And the changeup was working, curveball, off speed and hitters counts, and then fooling them with the fastball when they're looking off speed. But man, was he good! And now we. It's a good thing, but I always wondered why they took Chase Shores out of the Sunday role to begin with. Remember, they didn't have a Sunday starter last year. So to have anybody that's consistent in that role is a good thing. Now, I know Chase wasn't great, but at least you had a third guy, and then you had all these roles defined. You had the two-headed monster with Evans and Cowan in the bullpen, and then other pieces to go along with it, William Schmidt and that kind of stuff. But they tinkered with it, and, they put Connor Ware in the start on Sunday against Alabama, or the third game. And then they go with Kase Evans, and I'm thinking, we're tinkering too much, and it worked.
Speaking of tinkering, as we're talking with Todd Walker on the Max Home Hotline, we've seen Jay Johnson tinker with the lineup quite a bit. Kept Jake Brown out there in right field, and hit a big 3-run homer on Sunday. That was a big blast in the game. What do you think of this team offensively? Granted, Friday and Saturday it didn't look great. Friday into Saturday morning it didn't look great. But you also have to look at the 2 starters that Tennessee threw in both of those games. Those are 2 guys that could potentially be pitching in the major leagues one day. But this has been an offense, other than that 12-run outburst that we saw on Sunday, and it has been only scoring 2, 3, 4 runs and so forth. But do you think this offense is good enough, elite enough to win in Omaha?
Yes. You don't have to bang out 15 hits to win a baseball game. Florida won the 2017 national championship. They hit 258 as a team, but they had some power, and they could hurt you in spots. So I never overly worry about the offense. You worry about the pitching staff. Do we have the horses on the mound that can go and get it done? The answer for LSU, as we all know, is yes. So that's all, And then I thought Michael Braswell had a chance in the 8th or 9th when he came with the bases loaded to solidify that third base spot. Like if he pops one in the gap or hits a grand slam or something, then he's the everyday third baseman. And he still may be, because that's the most consistent defensive guy we've got. But stories like that, they always give Jared Jones and Milam a hard time. Like they don't hit elite pitching, but who does? To your point, Liam Doyle's the best in the league. And Marcus Phillips had a day in game 2. So, Milam hitting $183 in SEC play, and Jared Jones, 200 points difference in both those guys from out of conference to in conference. I think Jared Jones hitting 450 out of conference with 11 home runs, 250 in conference with 3. But both those guys can have an at-bat that changes the game. And so I'm not overly worried about the offense. They're good enough, and they're better than good enough. They're really good. But the staff is what you need. And back to the top 4 I mentioned, Arkansas has it. Texas definitely has it. They're tops in the country. LSU and Tennessee all have the staff to get this thing done.
Todd, thanks a lot for your time tonight. We really appreciate it. Good job this past weekend. It was a fun series. Look forward to more of your commentary on the SEC Network.
You're welcome, guys. Anytime. Thanks.
All right, College Baseball Hall of Famer, former LSU star, and LSU legend, Todd Walker, joining us on Tiger Rag Radio. We'll be back after this with more. Thanks, Todd.
The East Baton Rouge Parish Library welcomes Jeffrey Marks, author of its 19th annual One Book, One Community Pick Season of Life, to the main library at Goodwood on Sunday, April 27th at 3 p.m. Learn more about this exciting author talk on youth mentorship at readonebook.org. That's ReadOnebook.org.